Oh, there's Roy. Okay. All right. So there's Roy. Do-do-do-do. All right. Well, let's get started. All rise. All right. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lon, will you do the honors, please?
Your Heavenly Father, we come to you and just thank you for giving us all the protection and resources that you need. We ask for your continued hand over each and every one in the Civil Air Patrol and their families, Lord, that support us. Um, be with us this evening so we can, again, learn something and spend time together. Lord, be with our troops and their families, Lord, and protect them, we pray, in our country. May God bless America. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, today the agenda says emergency services. This squadron doesn't really have a ground team, so that almost always means something air related. So we'll try to figure out something air related for this today. It looks like we've got. Let's see, Roy is online. So hello, Roy. And let me see here. I'm gonna go to my announcements. Okay. So as a reminder, and I think Lon mentioned it, there is an ICS 300 course that's being offered. So if you need it, typically you would need it for becoming a mission pilot, somewhere in that train. I can't remember if you need it for TMP. I think you do, don't you?
For what?
For a transport mission pilot, I think.
No.
I can't remember, but
No, it's for comm. You wanted to be a call leader.
oh, communication unit leader, or yeah. So I guess it's a good conversation to have. So in the emergency services train of things, we this squadron focuses on air crew particularly, but in Civil Air Patrol and as you go through your level one for for the new people, you will learn about all the other missions in Civil Air Patrol, and the three missions are aerospace education, cadet programs, and emergency services. So today is Emergency Services Day. But in emergency services, we typically discuss or we typically think about our air crews because that's what the squadron does. There is a whole ground team component as well. And the support of the air mission and the ground mission comes from base staff. And the way the base staff operates, we have adapted, and I think most military, law enforcement, government have adopted what came from the firefighting community, something called the Incident Command System, or ICS, which is part of the greater National Incident Management System, NIMS. You don't have to write all of this down. You will, as you start kind of leveling up through getting past through level one, and then you want to start getting into training for the rest of emergency services, you will start to take FEMA training. It's free. It's online. At least the first four courses are online. IS 100, 200, and 700 and 800. Don't worry about the fact that they're kind of all over the place. But those four courses are the base of the National Incident Management System and the Incident Command System. The reason that you need to know it, and it's not like it's super difficult, but what it boils down into is what is the structure by which we are going to solve a particular issue. Now, of course, in Civil Air Patrol, we always think of search and rescue, but you'll find as you take the FEMA courses, they're talking about generic things like floods, earthquakes, fires, which are pretty much typically what is going to happen that causes the fire department and other government officials to get together to run an incident. The reason we have to know it in Civil Air Patrol is we do get attached to that, and we have to know that system. So something as simple as we take pictures, for example. Well, just because we're taking pictures doesn't mean that we have to be outside of that system and shouldn't be outside of that system. Because if you think of the floods, right? If you think of any flood going on in the area, one thing they might need is a damage assessment of buildings. And how they task us, we have to understand where we attach to that, and that's why the ICS is important. So yeah, it's a little bit dry, but what I found is because I've taken everything but the 400 at this point. Um, it's very enlightening how our law enforcement and emergency response and emergency management at the local, county, state, federal level, how they operate, and that's part of it. So, as an example, you're a part of it. You would be a part of a Civil Air Patrol air crew, probably doing damage assessments via photography. Well, where do you fit in the incident command structure? Well, most likely you would be probably a strike team, as they call it, and a strike team that's job is to do a damage assessment, and you need to understand where that attach point is in the ICS. So obviously, in your case, the mission pilot is a person you need to really talk to and worry about. But in the greater scheme of things, Civil Air Patrol can help. So for communications, for example, we have a robust communication system. We have a large repeater network. It works very well. It works in the case of disasters. So interfacing with the communications teams, that's something we could absolutely do, and our base staff would be doing that. And we have logistics, we have planning section chiefs, and all these terms that I'm kind of throwing out there are standardized. So whether you're in Civil Air Patrol, the fire department, police department, you have your job, but then you also have an assignment in the ICS system, so that if a police officer is interfacing with something that the fire department's doing, they all know how to interact. And that's really what it boils down to. So here in Civil Air Patrol, we want to have a base for that, obviously because we're going to interface with it at different points. Our base staff, when you train through the ICS system, you're gaining the ability to be able to serve at a base staff function. Everybody starts at a level called the mission staff assistant, which is, help out. It is show up and be ready to sign people in as resources. So all of us become a resource to the entire incident. Um, Keeping track, so you'd probably be assigned to a board. That was my last time doing a mission staff assistant, was keeping track of the information about every aircrew. So the aircraft, what grid they were assigned to, what was their last check-in and status, and when they were coming RTB. Um, and we do that. Yes, we can do it online and via computer, but it's better sometimes if you also keep that either on paper or on a board, because as we all know, computers can, cause problems, especially in a disaster. And even though there's redundancy, I mean, our communications network is designed to be resilient, but it could go down. You could have electromagnetic interference. You could have solar flares. And I know that sounds like I'm being flippant, but I noticed. I haven't done amateur radio training, but I've noticed one of the things we do track is solar flare activity, because it affects how communications work. And you'll hear it even as a pilot. Sometimes you'll just hear, I think it's P static or whatnot. You'll hear it in the radios. Um, Certain clouds will give it off, certain thunderstorms will give it off. Super weird. I'm getting off topic. So, anyways, the ICS 300, for those of us that have completed the 100, 200, 700, and 800, the 300 is required for taking any leadership position at base staff. It's also required for mission pilots, I believe. Checking my notes here. And it's basically because you need to have a better understanding of something, not just the structure, not just the titles, but no, seriously, how do these things work? Because you could be assigned to something critical and you need to know your place in it. I did the ICS 300 last year. It was a 2-day virtual course, I believe. So long day, or long 2 days. And we did a flood scenario. So fictional city flood scenario. And the first day was planning for incoming floods. Like, we knew all those rains were coming over the past few months. So the plan to get ready to respond. And then day 2 was, okay, it's happening. How do we respond? And how do you react to your response not working correctly? So pretty interesting course. Like I said, it's a long day, but it was virtual, so that did help. But very good training. So that's what the ICS is. So a lot of times, and we are paramilitary, sort of, we're auxiliary. you hear that, and you'll hear a lot of acronyms. Don't be afraid to stop somebody and say, "What does that mean?" And often you will get an explanation like I just gave you, so now you have an idea of what the ICS actually is and what the training is. But we do have a ton of acronyms, and we may not always know what the acronym means exactly, but we do know what it's for. So
What is ICS?
the Incident Command System, yeah, or in the greater part, NIMS, the National Incident Management System. So that's the first thing on the list is the ICS 300 course is coming. I believe if you need information on it, it was emailed out. If you need more information about how to sign up, please do it quickly or let me know and I can forward it to you. But the requirements are ICS 200, 100, 200, 700, and 800. These are all female online courses. You can knock them out in a pretty short period of time. So I see one of the other. It keeps coming up. We've lost. I think our group. I don't know about the wing, but I know the group. Just ground team. Usually, when we think of ground team, we think of primarily the cadets. Like I said, the cadet program is a large part of the CAP. Ground team is a very easy way to engage our cadets because they want to go out and wear the ABUs and they want to go hiking in the woods and camp, and that it's a little bit easier to engage the cadets that way. The problem is we need ground team leaders to be able to go out and hike with the cadets, and it's not just a matter of we go out and hike and play with flowers and stuff and don't get poison ivy. They do need to learn how to read maps. They need to learn how to orientate. They need to know how to use the radios. They need to understand first aid, obviously, to help themselves. And also, the point of ground team is searching for people that need help. So hikers that are lost, somebody who had a car crash and fell into a canyon, these are the type of things that ground teams would get called for. So if you have any interest in that side of the house, I can tell you that the barrier of entry is a little bit higher than even aircrew, oddly. Aircrew, we have specific training, and you go mission scanner and you ride in the back and you practice a lot of a light version of what pilots kind of already know. In ground team, there is a course, both in person and online, that you will learn basic first aid and here's how you use a compass and that type of stuff. The issue with ground team and what we call GT3, which is the entry level ground team, you do need to have the uniform. You need to have an ABU, which we can order the gear, but you also need to have a pack, and you need to have a pack with the appropriate gear to go hiking out in the wild. So I'll just warn people up front: is if it sounds neat, just prepare for the fact that if you don't already go out hiking and camping, that's a little bit of an uplift because you will have to have the uniform, you will have to have the gear, and it is what it is. My first rodeo in CAP, I was GT3, so I know what it takes, and I'm a little old and fat for that now. So I don't. I mean, I thought about doing it. I actually went through the GT3 training, and then I was like, maybe if I shed some weight and get into huffing my pack around, I'll get back into it. But if you are at all interested, the emails have been sent out. Keep that in mind if that's something that you want down the road. Let's see. I think there's a final wrap up for the March Air Force Base. What is that air show officially called? Homecoming? I think it's called Southern California Homecoming, something like that. A number of people that went to volunteer for CAP were recommended for awards. A brief note again for people that are new. We don't get paid. We're volunteers. The way we get paid is by awards. So some awards are just congratulations and a handshake. Most of them are also ribbons that we wear on our aviator or blue uniforms. So that is the recognition of a job well done, and a job done professionally as a volunteer. We do use the term that we are professional volunteers. So we want to do everything in a very professional manner, and the way that we show that we've done it correctly is usually through some sort of award or achievement. and through the promotions that we get. Because the promotions, unlike the military where, they are, they're slotted and they have requirements and whatnot, we have requirements too, but ours are geared toward when you see the rank of a senior member, it is definitely and directly related to years of service, training that has been completed, right? That's how it goes with us. So even though you go, well, how do I get there, it doesn't, what's a senior member and what's a first lieutenant, I mean, you'll learn that through level one, but the difference is a first lieutenant has more training and more time in CAP. That's really what it means. So that's one way that we show our support of people who have been in CAP. I'm looking here. So, like, what kind of things do we do at air shows? So, if you like air shows, let's start with that. If you like planes, you like air shows, and you'd go anyway, and you'd pay your normal money to do it, why should you volunteer with CAP to do it? Well, we do other things. So, obviously, we're helping with vehicle traffic, pedestrian traffic. You'll see us at the entry gates. You'll see us at the VIP tent areas, checking people's credentials to make sure that they're allowed in the VIP area. Yes, there is a trash detail, and we do pitch in for that. When you have large displays, things like the C-17, we will assist people with kind of getting in line and making sure they can step up properly and not hurt themselves in the aircraft. We do public affairs as well because we are representatives of the Air Force. That is part of every CAP member's job. We help with lost and found. We help with lost individuals. So kids, people, it's a big base, they get lost, it's hot, so we're there to kind of help with that situation. And obviously we guard a little bit of guarding building access, making sure the right people are allowed in there. And, pretty much any other thing they can throw at us because, usually the air shows get a pretty large contingent of CAP. And we do bring our planes. So Cat 443, which is 743 Charlie Papa, was flown. I don't know who flew it there. Was it Terry or Andre? And I think Andre flew it back. They flew the plane there. They staged it. It was on display. People get to play around with the G1000 displays, and basically represent CAP because people have an idea of what we are. But you see a big red, white, and blue aircraft that doesn't look like a fighter jet. What are you guys doing? And it's well, we support the Air Force through other means. So that's the kind of stuff that we do at these air shows. And the cool part is you get a front row seat to the air show. I think our aircraft was staged like right behind the flight line. So if you're helping out with the display of our own aircraft, you're right there. I mean, you're right there when the Thunderbirds go out. You're right there when the planes taxi out. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. I'm trying to see who. Okay, so, and I think it's a little bit of more of what I said. I'm reading what the officer that supported it said. And it's received a lot of recommendations for achievement awards, and because a lot of cadets show up and help out, and a lot of adults were there and helped out. So, and if you ever want to see some pictures, we've got the pictures downloaded somewhere in the CAP area. Ooh, speaking of which, I know you guys already have it set up, but so as people coming into CAP, important things to know, and I listed on our website. It's mentioned when so you have to show up for 3 meetings. That's the minimum. Decide if you like us. We decide if we like you, so it's a two-way street, and we welcome you on board. Now, the welcoming you on board process is you fill out an application, and you get fingerprinted because we work with kids. So 2 things happen. That application goes with your fingerprints and your check for national dues. That all gets sent up to national, and the FBI does a background check. So that's your time to bail now if you're worried about the FBI background check. But pretty much they're just checking for does this person touch kids? So that's that if you're or you're on the lam and we found you. So if you're one of those things, I wouldn't recommend it. But but for the most part, it flies right through. You'll get an FBI background check, and they'll say, yeah, this person's good to go. The most common way you'll know that you're done is your check will be cashed, and you'll get an email with your CAP ID. That's will be the next step. Then you have to take what's called an operational security OPSEC sign off, which basically just says, look, we have to know how to disseminate information properly, the classifications that we have. Nothing in CAP is secret, so that's the first thing. But there are some things that are confidential. So things like the actual frequencies for our repeaters, as an example. So we don't want people jamming those, or we don't want the media listening to our repeaters necessarily. When we're running operations, that type of thing. So OPSEC is about that. And the documents that you read and what kind of classification do they have. Is it for public dissemination, internal, or is this confidential information? Once you sign off on that, equal opportunity, just so that you know, we don't discriminate against women, against color, against racial or sexual orientation. We don't discriminate against any of that. Everybody is allowed. Everybody can participate. Even with disabilities, people can still participate in CAP. So that would be the next step. You sign off that. Yes, I read that. I understand it. Then you get access to e-services. E-services is what allows you to do pretty much everything else in CAP. It is the lifeblood of how you manage yourself, how you manage your training, and as you start to get duty assignments, most of us have jobs to do in CAP. It is the primary method that we're going to do that job is through e-services. So pretty important. The other thing is we talk about e-services a lot, but the other thing that's on the other side of that is people don't pay attention to the email they get. The email they get also has instructions to give you access to your, we call it COG cap. So CAWG, not that. CAWG is California Wing, because we are part of the California Wing, which is part of the Pacific Coast region, right? So in our hierarchy, national, regional, so we're Pacific Coast region. We are the California Wing. Down here in Southern California, we are in Group 3. And this is something that you will interchangeably need to know and never need to use is our charter number. Our charter number represents exactly that information I just told you, which is PCR CA 387. The 387, that's kind of a throwaway because we're Squadron 5. Figure that one out. But anyways, when you get that email, you will get instructions to create or to sign into your COGCAP email account. Our COGCAP email is Office 365. Every single member of CAP has access to Office 365. You don't have to download anything. I mean, I'm using my iPad and I do everything completely online. So any work I do, spreadsheets, documentation, PDFs I download, it all goes into my Office filing so that I always have access to it. All I need is an internet connection. And it's one of the, I'm an IT guy, so I got a little excited about that stuff. But it's the easiest way as you go through CAP to keep organized. If you don't get into the habit of pulling everything down to your laptop or your iPad and doing it there, if you get used to doing it all through Office 365, your life will be so much better. And most of our tools in at least the California wing is all based off of Office 365. So e-services, Office 365, you get those two things done after you're kind of active, you'll have access to everything. So all these things that I talk about when I say it should be in your email, that's the email I'm referring to. And obviously you can set it up on your mobile devices and everything else. So there's that. Anyways, okay, those were the first set of updates. The second set of updates, finance. So as a member of CAP and as a member of this squadron, like I said, it's nothing secret. We're a squadron. So a lot of times, I know a lot of squadrons don't discuss squadron things like finance, right? Because there are squadron finance officers that deal with these things. But this squadron, we're all adults, so everybody should know what's going on with the squadron. This squadron also has squadron dues. A lot of squadrons don't have dues, but we have dues because we have to pay for the space and the hangar and the electricity and things that we use and the internet and all that kind of stuff. So we recently tried to go to the airport manager and say, look, we're a volunteer organization. We're not profit. Can you give us some relief on what we pay, because we're having to charge our members quite a hefty fee for the year, and we'd rather not do that. They came back and gave us the breakdown of everything, and they're already giving us a very considerable discount on the services that we use. In fact, the space right here, um, we're getting at a very very good rate. So the airport manager said, "Look, you're in. We're giving you your hangar for $1. We're giving you this space at almost 60% discount. We really can't do much else." Now, what it did offer is, if you're willing to give up this space, you can use the terminal conference room for your meeting area. That's not going to work. So, so unfortunately, we're not going to get any relief from the airport manager, and it's not because they're being mean or not being nice. It's just this space has a value, and as I'll show you later, we have a comm room, we have HF and VHF antennas on top of the building, and plus this place, um, our squadron, is a central location for running missions, both the training missions, SAREX, which stands for Search and Rescue Exercise, um, and an actual mission. Like, they use this facility as a base because we're attached to an airport. It's easy to get here. Our fueling pumps are right out front. So when we do a SAREX, there's a lot of people in and out of this building, and the planes come right up here, fuel up, and go about their business. So I would just, my thoughts on that is I wouldn't give that up because it's a very valuable tool to CAP here in Southern California. So that's the word on that. Andre's working on switching an internet provider because I do think we get a pretty hefty charge for our internet, and it's not that great. I don't know. You guys seen any stuttering over there or whatnot? But yeah, it's so Andre's working on that. But that is why we change the Squadron yearly dues. And on top of that, the other thing that we're working on, at least it's not mentioned here, but I know Andre, we've both tried to go back and forth with finance about why you can't just do electronic monthly dues. Because when you look at our dues, you go, wow, that's really expensive. It's $300 a year. That's a lot of money. Or it's $25 a month. That I could do that, but we don't have the capability of doing monthly reoccurring charges. So we're working on that one as well. But that's the story about finance. So questions, comments. Look here, I see Mario has joined. Hey, Mario. Let's see. I'm looking. Let's see, Roy dropped off, but Roy said we can always, about the back to the ground team discussion. If you're interested in ground team and you kind of want to get a taste for it before we try to dip our toes into it as this squadron, we can always go participate in those squadrons on those missions. In fact, I'll take this time to say that we're a flying squadron, and we'll probably never be a ground team squadron. But if ground team is something interesting to you, you can go with any composite or cadet squadron and do ground team stuff like that. There's nothing that stops you. Like, it's not like, oh, we're going to prevent you from doing it. You'll notice in the training, once you get into it, there are steps in the training that requires commander approval. There are 3 of us that can do that. There's Andre, there's me, and there's Mike. None of us are going to be like, I don't think you should be ground team. We're not checking on that box. Like, none of us are going to do that. Like, CAP is here to go as far as you want to go. So all you have to do is let us know that you're interested by, when you go in the training, you will ask for commander approval, which will just go, yep. So take that in mind. What is it? Questions, comments? Nothing? Yeah. All right. I'm trying to think if I have anything to add to this. The only thing I would add, and it's not really related to emergency services in general, but the mission of CAP and emergency services in general, and even though we are a flying squadron, you should consider, and I'm saying this because I have a friend who is, he's literally he's the PIO, which you'll learn if you do the ICS. PIO is the Public Information Officer. He's the PIO for Riverside County Emergency Services, and he just did a CERT program training last week. And CERT, for those of you that don't know, is the Community Emergency Response Team. It is citizens who want to be prepared to be able to help. That's literally what it is. And so things like learning first aid, learning CPR, learning how to use an AED, all things that could save people's lives and do save people's lives all the time. As a member of CAP, we're never going to require you to do any of those things. But when we're out in public, wearing the uniform, it's helpful if we can help in those situations. And I think there was literally two or three cadets that were in a restaurant, and somebody was, I think they were choking, and the cadets actually saved that person's lives. And the reason they had to save that person's life is because the cadets were sitting in the back of the restaurant, and they literally asked everybody else, does somebody know how to do the Heimlich? Does somebody know how to do resuscitation? Before they got to a table of three cadets, and the three cadets actually knew what to do because they were first aid trained. So, if as you start subscribing to CAP, or if you look in the news or whatnot, you will see that our cadets are trained to do this. Our adults, our senior members are trained to do this as well. So I'll put a little plug in here of there's CERT, and there's something else. In fact, it's on my desk, and I still haven't sent it in. There's registration for a California Disaster Services worker. It's not required for CAP, but it does allow you to assist more readily because it makes you an actual registered resource with the California state. And it's a little bit of back and forth to get it done. You have to go fill out a form, and that form has to be filled out a certain way, which it's all in CAP, and we have it on our website on how to do it. And then it gets sent into the governor's office, and the governor's office now says, yep, this person, we know how to contact them, we know where they live, we know where they are, and now they're a registered California Disaster Services worker. So CERT and California Disaster Services worker are two things I would, from an emergency services standpoint, it'll give you much better awareness about what's going on, and it gives you a lot more capability to respond and assist when there are problems. Questions?
You might want to go over what it takes, I think, to complete the first step, level 1, and as soon as you get that done, then you're allowed to fly with other members that are pilots.
So, in fact,
And before you get into that,
I'm not going to do it.
oh, okay. Mike come in is online. He had a question. Can CAP AF help pay for Microsoft 365? Do you know if that was brought up?
So,
It's they don't. I am fairly certain that it is donated by Microsoft, so we
So
can't.
that's not an expense to us.
Yeah, we don't. As far as I know, it's not. It's not an expense that we pay for. I think that was a deal negotiated, and this is from also what I understand, either per wing or per region. So PCR, Pacific Coast Region, has worked out an agreement where all the wings in PCR have access to 365. I know there's at least one state that doesn't do it. I don't know which one, but Arizona or Oregon or whoever it is, but one of those states doesn't participate in that whole thing. But you'll notice across the United States, wings, sometimes regions will work out that agreement, but PCR, and by way of PCR, California, every single one of us has access to, I believe it's an Office 365 E3 license. I believe that's what it is. Which is most of the tools that you need to do, run teams, do presentations, create forms, that type of thing. But primarily email and OneDrive. That's the big thing that we use is the Outlook email and OneDrive storage. But you can't buy it separately. I don't think, or we're not paying for it in that way, if I'm not mistaken. And you had a question, Lon, or?
Me?
I thought you said.
I just asked, you might want to explain the first step, level 1.
Okay. Well, let's see. As I have that in a handy dandy website that I will share for Mario's benefit as well. I should know that. question will be, can I share it in both directions? That's going to be the that's going to be the fun part. Let's see how long this takes. I can. It's like, for me, it's almost like old school networking. Okay, so that's up, and now can I just share my screen? Of course. I can't do both at the same time. Mario, if you want to follow along, just go to this website. Um, in fact, I'll put it in the chat for you. I don't know why they don't let us do that, but it's very interesting. Okay. All right. Wonderful. It's our website. Yeah. Sierra Quebec 5.cap.gov. So, what I've done to make this a bit easier, and I know I showed this to you last time, is I put this under getting started. And as you start, I'm not going to read this verbose, but basically it spells out very much here your first tasks to get to be able to do something in the aircraft. So a lot of stuff I just covered. So you'll get access to e-services. Well, let's start with the first steps. Just like I mentioned, COG. You need access to COG email. That you get that email when you're official at that point. You'll go through OPSEC. You'll do your equal opportunity training, and then the often overlooked, the CAP member photo. You will never receive an ID until you put an official CAP photo that's been approved. A lot of people are like, where's my ID card? I don't have it. It won't be sent until you have a photo on record with our system. And the only thing that happens, why it's confusing, is because it goes through a system where you upload a photo and one of the commanders has to approve it. And it's because we're checking for certain requirements, because you can't just have your vacation photo or you with your dog. You can't have those. It has to be a very specific type of photo. It doesn't have to be in uniform, but it has to be professional looking with a common white background and that type, and looking straight ahead. And we double check that, and if it doesn't pass muster, we'll send it back. But you get all those things done. Then you get into e-services, and I've spelled it out pretty much here, but it's the same things that I just talked about. Where level 1, and that's just a little snippet of the LMS that we have called Access. Level 1 is completely online. It is, you go on. It's a. I mean, some people think it's hard to navigate. It's not super hard, but you get in there. It spells out all the courses that you need to do, and these courses take 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. They're not very difficult. The tests are, for the most part, open book, because they're just, did you pay attention to what you just read? That's literally how it goes. So you'll get through all of that training, and the only stop gate is cadet protection, because it's a very important concept. Again, we'll go over it when you do it, but it's basically, because we work with cadets, we have to, we have very specific training about how you behave around the cadets, because they are minors, and even the little fringe and gray areas where, well, you can technically have a cadet that's older than 18. Yeah, you still can't do anything. So it's that kind of training. You get through all that, and we sign you off. It's, again, one of the commanders or the professional development officer, which is also one of the deputy commanders, but we sign you off on that, and level 1 is complete. Once you finish level 1, the next thing we talk about is aircraft ground handling, and it's kind of what Lon was referring to earlier, which is, again, professional volunteers. I mean, we're pilots. I mean, most of us in the room are pilots, or you've been around aircraft, you understand how it works. But we have a standard, and there's standards about putting the aircraft in the hangar. If you are flying with a mission pilot, they are going to request your assistance for things like wing walking, to make sure the wings don't hit something, and generally make sure that things are clear. as a part of the air crew, you're going to make sure that people don't walk into the prop. So if he's calling clear a prop and looking left, but he doesn't see the person that's walking up on the right side of the plane, it is your job to call that out and go, hey, no, no, don't start, So, and the rule and the thing that we use, you'll hear it if you ever take the risk management courses, is it sounds funny and it's a bit old school. The term is knock it off. And that term is a magic term. The military uses it, at least Air Force does. We use it. Knock it off means stop whatever you're doing, and it's instant stop whatever you're doing. Like if I'm carrying a box and knock it off. What's going on? I might be about to step on something. I don't know. So knowing that and knowing how to immediately get everybody's attention and say, stop what you're doing. You're about to run into the hangar. You're about to, pop a tire on something like that. So aircraft ground handling. Now, what I will show you, well, it's actually hard to show because if I log into the LMS, you won't see the courses. But I can actually, here's what I can do. I can show you what the LMS looks like. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. And now they added, there's two-factor authentication now for e-services, so be wary. Be ready for some fun when you log into it for the first time. Okay, so our learning management system, and Mario, for your edification, it's just e-services stuff you already know, so you can click around if you want, or just listen to my, dulcet tones. So the old system was right here, and you'll see right kind of in the bottom here, there's this whole cadet protection, right? And I think this is probably where you did your renewal, Lon, somewhere down here, I would assume. Probably. And you'll see there's a difference. By default, you'll take the basic. Once you go into squadron leadership, you'll take the advanced course, which is just a lot of, no, seriously, don't touch the cadets. It's really, that's the difference between the two courses. But you'll go up to access, and I'll show you what the system looks like. I think I'm in the middle of level 3 or something, but it'll look the same for level 1, just less courses. So you'll get in, and the first thing I'm presented with is kind of, well, where am I? So I don't know. So iCut popped back up. So iCut, this is probably for you, Chuck, because you're more ACUT guy, which it stands for Intermediate Communication Unit Training. The A just means advanced. I think it popped back up because they changed something in the course, so they're recommending that everybody go back and take it. You'll see these things called specialty tracks. That is based on your duty assignment. So in addition to, yes, we all want to fly because we're cool pilot people, but this is a volunteer organization. Everybody has a job to do. And don't be afraid of doing something that, I don't know anything about finance, or I don't know anything about administrative work. Everything in CAP is designed to be done, A, by volunteers, B, on the job training. Like if one of us, the commanders, isn't available, almost every bit of this training is online. So like right here, that literally is teaching me how to do, let's see, what is that? Personnel and information technology. If I didn't know how to do those things, it's right there. I can read what CAP expects me to know as a personnel officer, as an information technology officer. But what you will see, instead of this, where you see that level 3, you will see a level 1. And in level 1, it's got 2 ways to confuse you. So there's a bunch of stuff on the left here. I don't normally pay attention to them because it confuses me. I just go right for the big blocks on the right side, which tell me here's all the training that I need to complete before I even get into finishing my level 3, right? Because some of these courses will be online that I can just do. Like if you see the enroll button, I can just do them. There's also another whole set, and that's what this part on the left refers to. So you'll see there's, see, I have to scroll through different ways. Automated modules, you won't see this in level 1. But in level 1, you'll see level 1, and they're all automated. So they're just one section, and you'll go through them, click through them, and you'll be good. The moderated modules means they have to be done in person. So either, there's a trainer who's coming around and doing level 3 training, which is typically what we're doing now, or you have to go somewhere. You have to go to, wherever an on-person training site is going to be. Um, that's again, that's like level 3. Level 2 is on-site, but there's more people doing on-site training for level 2, so I wouldn't worry about it for there. But what do these look like? Well, I'll go into one of these courses just so you get a feel for what the training actually looks like. If I go in here, let's say personnel track training. Okay, cool. It's almost always going to be a study guide where literally you just, go in there and it's like, well, oh, okay, it actually pulls it up this time. Normally it's just a PDF and it breaks on the iPad. This is literally, so this is also a good demo to show you. So when we say duty assignment, I didn't know being a personnel officer from zero. I've never done it in CAP, but I'm the group personnel officer. So how do I do that? This guide tells me everything I need to know about being a personnel officer for CAP. So this isn't indicative of normal training at CAP. Normally you'll have, let's see, if I go back, maybe I'll show you something here. Let me show you something. Yeah, see, now I'm all over the place. All right, let's go back to. Let's go back to iCut. I suggest you all take iCut. It's the intro to communications because communications is a big part of what CAP does. The more you understand it, the more fun you're going to have in CAP. So this is more like a normal course where there's a video. You'll watch the video and then you'll take a quiz, right? You'll see that there. Video, then the quiz. And then you've got another section down here. Even more videos and quizzes. And again, more videos, more quizzes. You can see how communications were pretty, we want you to understand how our communication systems work. And then at the end, this is the part that everybody forgets. Why am I not getting 100% completion? Take the online survey and say, did you like this course? It's it's a win. It gets everybody. But that's literally it. Now, the iCut is special, where you'll go through all of this. You'll take all those quizzes. But the iCut and the ACut, if there is still an ACut, you will need to have a communication unit leader sign off on you understand what you just learned, because this is serious stuff. It's not like the level 1 where it's just learn how CIP works and you'll learn more as you go on. This is after you're done with this, you can click the push to talk and use a radio. So you will need to meet with a communication unit leader like Mike Swift here. He's our previous commander and he's still here. He will go through how those radios back, because we have a communications room with very good communications equipment, and he will go through how it all works, how the radios work, which frequencies we use, the procedures. Most of us that are pilots understand most of it, but it's slightly different, right? So the best way I can relate it to you as both a pilot, as someone who has completed iCut. With piloting, we want to be super brief, right? We want to get our point across as fast as possible. With CAP communications, that's not the goal. I mean, yes, brevity is important, but you will speak clearly, you will speak as slow as you need to, and you will use specific pro words to speed things up. So, for example, if somebody's requesting that you do something, the response is will go, right? Will comply, right? That's where will go comes from. That's not something we typically use in pilot term, although I use it as a pilot. If they give me instruction, I'll say will go, Cherokee 819er, and they leave me alone. But there are certain words, like, if I'm relaying messages, using the word stop or break. Those words have different meanings, right? So that's the reason you have to go through the training. That's the reason why you have to have a communications person sign off on you're good to go. And of the units in CAP, aircrew, we're pilots. We know our thing. The communications team, those are serious guys. They know their stuff, and if you don't know it and you're wrong on the radio, they will tell you about it. So don't let that make you nervous. Just see it as an opportunity to learn more about communications. I'm saying this for Chuck's benefit, of course. So, but anyways, that's a little bit of a kind of a primer to your first steps in CAP is going to be doing the level 1 because we like people to get that done in the first 90 days. You'll find that it only takes a few hours if you just hunker down and do it on a weekend. Um, but that's kind of the baseline. Now, the extra brownie points is most of the pilot training actually requires you to do level 2 part 1. Level 2 part 1 is a little more customs and courtesies. It's a little more knowledge about CAP and how it works and more of our procedures and policies, more importantly. But basically it boils down to a little more practice learning how to read through our index, which is the all the different rules and regs that we have. Just like the FAA wants you to know the FAR aim, CAP wants you to know the CAPR, the CAPF, and the CAPS. Like there are forms, right? And there's lots of them because we're basically kind of like military. So questions. And that's a lot of information, and I'm used to getting through it pretty quick, but yeah.
So depending on which direction you decide to go, you would have different courses. If you wanted to, could you take courses for different paths? Like if someone wanted to do photography, scanning, observing, all of those different things.
So there's 2 steps. Let's see. So first, stuff like this, like iCut and
Well, iCut's not a great example. There's the course catalog. As soon as you get into, your eServices account, you can look at the course catalog, and you can literally take anything you want. I mean, anything that has an enroll button, and that enroll button lets you enroll in it, you can take it. Is it all going to be relevant to something you're doing in CAP? Probably not. There are some things, obviously, and then there will be things like as you start taking your Form 5 and getting ready, you'll be coming in here and looking at the Garmin 1000 stuff because they're gonna eventually ask you about that type of thing. And then if you use G1000, some of our planes have NXI, so you'll do the NXI transition and all that kind of stuff. But like G1000 VFR, that's something you probably want to look at. Because if you're gearing up to take a Form 5 in Cat 443, it's a G1000 aircraft, and you're expected to know G1000 VFR procedures in that aircraft for your Form 5, as an example. So you can look at it early, you can look at it before you take your Form 5, however it suits you. But this whole line of courses, you can literally scroll down them and take them all if you want, but they're not all relevant to you. When you are assigned a duty, you will automatically be assigned to the specialty track related to that duty. So in my case, I'm a professional development officer, which means I'm ENT, education and training. Automatically, the ENT specialty is assigned to me, and the courses that go with it. As a personnel officer, the personnel specialty track and all that gets assigned as well. So some of it's automatic. Some of it is as you will. You'll want to, ooh, this looks interesting, and click on it. I would advise you, if you're going to hunt and peck, check with one of us, because we could probably tell you you'll never do that. Like in there was, the MT7 mall. You'll never fly them all, unless you move there to Alaska. You might fly them all. But anyway, so that answer your question, or now there's another part that you don't see. Can I get back to it here? We'll see. Probably not. I'll probably have to jump over here and do. Yeah. Let's see. How do I get back there? It's one. The big problem with it is once you get into the learning management system, getting out of it is always super exciting because it locks you in there. And eServices times you out all the time. Super annoying. All right. The other big thing that you'll start getting used to, and I'm just going to show it to you just so you start, because it's a familiar, not Wimmers, it's a familiarity thing, is what we call, you'll hear the term squitters. Squitters is operations qualifications, right? And everything that we do that allows us to participate in missions is tracked in this area. So, as an example, if you want to see everything that I'm qualified for, because this is literally a printable card that the part up here, this wow, the section over here, woo, yeah. So this whole section is designed to be printed out, folded up, and that's your card. Now we have an electronic version of it, so don't worry about it. But this little grid over here is showing everything that I'm actually qualified to do. Let me see, can I zoom in on that a little bit for us vision challenged people? So pretty basic stuff. I mean, you guys are looking at it, and this is part of that training we'll talk about. So if it has a date, that means it expires. If it has the infinity signal, it means it doesn't expire. It doesn't expire. If it has a little asterisk, and this is spelled out in here, it means that I'm in training. So mission staff assistant, mission radio operator, I'm a trainee for both of those, meaning I have to finish some training. And then all the rest of these, so you'll see, you know, IS 200, 300, 800. If you want to drive a CAP vehicle, you have to get your CAP driver's license, which just means print out your driving record and make sure that you haven't run into anything recently. That's all pretty standard stuff, right? So this one expires, like this is mission scanner. This will be the first one. Even you pilots, you have to be a mission scanner first before you become either an MO or for what I don't have. Transport mission, or even CAP VFR. I think, does it show CAP VFR?
No.
Does it show that anymore? Yeah. So, because no one cares. I mean, the thing is, like, if you're Form 5 in the aircraft, but you're not a transport mission pilot, or you're not a mission observer, this doesn't care because this is about your emergency services ratings, and being able to fly the plane is not an emergency services rating. So. This is what we call squitters. There's a whole lot to this, and obviously as we go on, I'm your kind of best point of contact on how to navigate it and what's going on in here. But as an example, yes.
I noticed that one of the things on your list said chaplain support services.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that, like? You pray with people? Or?
Well, so all military units have chaplains, and CAP has a very
dedicated and certified chaplain program. Our chaplains, CAP chaplains, are actually able to perform military chaplain duties because we're around disasters. And what are you going to find on disasters? So like I said, my first rodeo in CAP was 20 years ago, and I was ground team. Part of the training that we got as ground team is seeing things that nobody wants to see, right? And you're searching for a lost hiker, you might find them dead, right? And that's just is going to be what it is. Now, it's a traumatic event for anybody. Some of us can compartmentalize a little better, but nobody expects you to just be like, yeah, okay, that's cool, dead body, we're all good here. We expect, as volunteers, that there's going to be some trauma that, dealing with somebody who has deceased, and that's what our chaplains are for. That's part of what they're there for. There is another team, I believe it's called CISM. I can't remember, but there's a special team that is also trained for crisis management, right? So if we're going into an area that has had devastating floods, and we know there's going to be people trapped in their homes that have died, they will almost definitely send a crisis team with whatever CAP details go, or at least somebody who has training in the crisis management program. Them, along with chaplains, help get people through some pretty tough things that they've seen. So they're real chaplains. It's not like a fake assignment or anything. They do have to be ordained ministers, or the equivalent in their religion. And you'll actually learn in both level 1 and more in level 2 about the chaplaincy program, because it just like the medical program and law programs, So if you ever are unlucky to see a CAP legal officer, those are, they've passed the bar, right? They are practicing lawyers in most cases. Attorneys are almost always CPAs. We have a medical officer in the squadron, and she's a registered nurse, right? So there are certain positions in CAP that are lined up, and chaplain is one of them. So if you see the cross on their uniform, they're a chaplain.
My mom was a chaplain, I think she was ordained, but she did a lot of work with that sort of thing, and I wonder if she would be interested in doing anything like that.
So
I'll have to ask her.
it's interesting you bring.
Up and like I said, you will learn a lot of things about CAP, and one of them is how can you serve CAP? Obviously, because we're volunteer. You don't have to run around and wear the uniform all the time. You can be a member of CAP that you do all the regular training. But like I said, if you're interested more, or she's interested more in being a chaplain, we do have certain requirements. But if she wants to get into that and learn more about it, I can forward more details. Because remember, I was talking about knowing all the rules and regs. There's I can't recite it from my head, but there's a whole form, or there's a whole CAPF that denotes how the chaplain's program works, the requirements. They do have to at least get through Part 2, Level 1 to understand CAP, and they do have to be an ordained minister or the equivalent in their field. I think for do they need to have masters? I thought it was at least bachelors.
In order to be a chaplain, you have to be an ordained minister, you have to have your master's in divinity.
Probably, yeah.
There's
So
something else called the moral leadership officer. I had that position
yeah,
for
okay,
a while.
okay.
For those that can't become a chaplain or not aspiring to be a chaplain.
Well, yeah, like I don't want to, I don't want my degree in theocracy or anything, right? Right. But I do want to help, and and I'm very spiritual. Yes. So, yeah, but we can definitely get you more information about that if she's so interested. And we also have something called patrons. We use patrons for people that kind of fall out, like they're like, they're not showing up. But there are ways to serve CAP and not have to come in and wear uniforms all the time. So that might qualify for that as well. So. But patrons, it's a weird status because patrons can't participate. So I think there's another weird status that we have that gets you by, like we do it with aerospace education. We do it with parents that have cadets in the squadron. Anyways, so that might be something there. Any follow up questions or anything? I actually managed to get through the whole hour of just. There's a lot of info and it all seems overwhelming, but that's why we're here to help.
So after you kind of sort of get done through the first phase of it, or section one, then is there like specific requirements you have to go through to go on to the next step, other than like completing all the training and equipment and stuff?
In almost every case, so either there's once you get past level 2, part 1, there's no further you don't
have to go up any further through the chain. You don't have to go level 3, level 4, level 5. Those are command ranks, right? If you want to run squadrons or you want to work at region and that type of stuff, that's down the road. But level 2, part 1 unlocks like the rest of everything you need as a senior to participate. And the rest of that training, like when you're talking about doing an actual job like flying planes or search and rescue, that's all part of that second thing I showed you, the ops quals. And in the ops quals, and that's what I was getting to, is if I pull up one I don't have, like mission pilot, all of them follow a same format, where up at the top, you'll see how, probably hard to see. So you'll see here it says prerequisites, right? Number of required tasks. So it spells out what you need. And in this case, I've already done my general emergency services. We call it GES. It's very simple. There's 3 different steps to the GES. It's read this document. Did you understand it? That's how it works. You'll see also mission scanner. You have to do mission scanner. That's a whole task in and of itself. And the reason I'm not clicking on that one is because since it's complete, it doesn't show you everything. So I need to be a mission scanner. I need to, so VFR pilot, that's the form 5. Like I have to have completed my Form 5 in at least one aircraft. Or is it also? Yeah, and have to be a transport mission pilot. So to be a mission pilot, the difference between CAP VFR and transport is, I believe it's some FEMA training. I think it is. Well, let's see. I don't have transport mission pilot. We can see what it is. Oh, there you go. So I have hours requirements. I need 50 hours of cross country. I also need at least 100 hours of PIC, right? I think I have the 50 hours of cross country, but and there's a way that we log that. So basically, if I think I have 50 hours, which I think I do, I take a picture of my logbook or that relevant entry in my logbook of the total. I upload it to the system, and then at the unit, and usually at the wing, and probably or unit, group, and wing, everyone checks that document, make sure that it all looks like it's a valid document, and they click approve, and I get the check that says, yes, I've completed 50 hours of cross country. Same thing with PIC. So once I complete a check ride, a Form 5, and have the hours requirements complete, I will have completed the requirements to be a transport mission pilot. So as that's an example of, that's how this system works. It's to keep you organized on the training that you need to do. So same here with mission pilot. Once I complete those, I'm good. You'll see this step here is commander approval. This is the part where I said you'd be hard pressed to have one of us not click on that approval, because I think for bigger squadrons, maybe they're trying to sort people out. That's just a step that says you have all the prerequisites done and you're ready to train. So then we do what's called FAM and prep. We sort into familiarization and preparatory training. This is the part where you'll get into, and you'll see it as you do your mission scanner because it looks very similar. All the ops quals look exactly the same format. You'll see how it says complete here. Complete task 02003 grid sectional charts, which in this task guide, and it's also available as a PDF. If I go in here and I turn to operational, that's what O stands for, operational 2003 in here, it will show me what's expected to be known. Almost there. Yeah, there we go. 2003. So 2003 grid sectional charts, which as pilots, you should know how to read those. If you're not a pilot, you will be taught, if you read through this, it will teach you how to read a sectional, right? And how to specifically read our grid coordinates, because you'll notice that that's not quite a sectional, it's a sectional with an overlay on top of it. That's how we do our grids. So instead of saying lat, 117, 40, you're going to get LAX 250. And LAX 250 corresponds to a lat long coordinate, but you can be broken down from there. So you will be evaluated for knowing how to read that. And at the end of each of these sections, it's just like the ACS. It's, here's what you're supposed to know. The evaluator may ask you all of it or some of it or a couple things. It's all up to the evaluator. I mean, if he was just on the plane with you, he probably figures it out. So what happens is, like, especially on a SARX or whether you're getting trained, you will fill this out. You'll say the date. The evaluator is the evaluator's CAP ID, and if it was on a SARX, it'll have a mission ID. Fill those things in, and then you hit submit. Typically, you'll do all of these, and they will turn yellow. When they turn yellow, they actually get sent over to an approval, usually the unit, and the approver will click, yeah, this all looks good, and if you had to upload documents, they'll check those documents, right, boom, then they will turn green. That's the FAM and prep. So you do that for every single one of these. Then, once FAM and prep is done, you come back to the commander for authorization to continue. Then you'll go on to the advanced training. And the advanced training is actually doing stuff. So in the case of mission pilot, there are some prerequisites. Like remember we talked about the incident command system, IS 100, 200, 700. Those are requirements for CAP, for a mission pilot. You have to know, again, it says ES, it's the general ES. It's just some information about how to do emergency services, and then you'll have these tasks. I guarantee you, all these are you go flying, and you go down the list of these different tasks you have to do. Locate and silence an ELT, right? That's operate the direction finder, or the not the ADF, because I saw that and I was like, the ADF, oh no, and it's like no, they're talking about the Becker unit that listens for and triangulates ELTs. So you'll do all that. Most of the time you'll do it at an operational exercise, and then you'll get down here at the bottom, which is I've gone through the training. I've gone through the cram and prep. I've now gone through the advanced training. Now I'm ready to go to a SARX and do the actual job. The first time you're doing it with like shackles or with an instructor that is, kind of helping you and, just kind of double checking. The second time you are expected to do it with no help, just like with a regular check ride. And in the case of a mission pilot, you'll see all this wraps up in what we call the Form 91 check ride. So this is an example, like I'm showing you this one because it's one I don't have. This is the format that all training, emergency services training in CAP takes. So initial requirements, and it could be something as simple as be over 18. Well, the system already knows you're over 18, so they'll just be green. But you'll see things like, you need your Form 5. Okay, I don't have that, so I need to go get it. And you'll see how it's almost always linked. So I don't have a mission pilot rating. Okay, what do I need to be a mission pilot? I click on that, it takes me right there. Right, so, we're a little bit over, but any further questions? Like, did that kind of answer what you were looking at? I mean, it's pretty good at keeping you focused on what you need. Now, the trick that we're not showing you is how to get it. And that's, it takes a little bit of effort for the flying stuff, just because there's finding an evaluator, finding a CAP instructor and the timing, and that's the hardest part, is just getting the time, getting the plane, and then getting in it and doing it. That's going to be what you'll find is your biggest uplift to getting it done. Anything else? All right. Well, Mario, thank you. Meeting adjourned.